Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan. Bacaan kali kedua, Electricity Amendment Bill 2023, Minister for Utility and Telecommunication.
Datuk Speaker, sir, I beg to move the bill entitled Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 to be read for a second reading in this August House. Datuk Speaker, sir, this bill is to amend the Electricity Ordinance Caption 50, which was revised in 2002, having been enforced since 1st January 1956. Under the present ordinance, Syarikat Sesko Berhad, in short Sesko, now wholly owned by Sarawak Energy Berhad, in short SEB, is the sole generator, distributor and supplier of electricity in Sarawak. The electricity ordinance has to be updated to advance the Sarawak government's policies on the following: A. Energy transition to clean renewable energy. B. Entrenching Sarawak's status as the energy powerhouse or hub for the ASEAN region through a grid system that would enable renewable energy from Sarawak to be exported to Sabah, our sister state, Brunei Darussalam, our neighbor Kalimantan, Indonesia, Singapore, and even to Peninsula Malaysia. C. Enabling our people and investors to participate in the production or generation through installation of solar energy system and cascading hydropower in our rivers, and for SEB to procure from these new energy sources for distribution and supply of electricity to consumers through the transmission grid system that SEB owns. To accomplish this objective, Dr. Speaker, sir, this bill seeks to make amendments to the ordinance as follows. A. Institutionalize the single buyer concept with Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, a company wholly owned by Sarawak government, as the single buyer. B. Incorporate new provisions that promote the development of renewable energy, namely solar and hydropower. C. Regulation of water flow in rivers to be designated for the purpose of developing cascading hydro stations and installation. D. Provide for the export of electricity to places or countries outside Sarawak. E. Enable Sarawak Energy Berhad or SEB and any other licensee to have access to land in exercise of the rights reserved to the government under Section 37(a) of the Land Code for the purpose of laying electricity supply lines and building towers to facilitate transmission of electricity, especially to rural areas, with provision for payment of compensation to landowners for the use of or damage to their land. F. Improve provision for the enforcement of offences and penalties. And G. Make rules on levy of surcharge, resolution of disagreement over tariff and other necessary matters. Datuk Ahmad Speaker, sir, under the existing Electricity State Grid Code, Rules 2003, the concept of single buyer has long been established and recognized. Under the said Grid Code rules, it defines single buyer as the agency appointed by the regulator responsible for the following: A. Monitoring the scheduling, dispatch, and operational planning by the grid system operator, GSO, to ensure the equitable treatment of all power producers and to meet adequacy of demand. B, procuring new generation capacity. And C, ensuring that all new power purchase agreements, in short PPAs, between the relevant parties meet the requirements of the grid code and license requirement. Dato' Speaker, sir, the amendment strengthens Sarawak Energy Berhad's role as single buyer that allows it to buy power generated by other producers and deliver through its transmission and distribution grid to supply the electricity to the customers. Prospective solar power producers may enter into agreement to sell power to Sarawak Energy Berhad or SEB as a single buyer or to sell power to another consumer where single buyer does not require the solar power. The provision of the single buyer under the proposed bill will not infringe the Competition Act 2010, and this aligns with the Section 3(4)(a) of the Competition Act 2010. Under this section, the commercial activity of the single buyer is a legislative requirement of a governmental authority and is therefore excluded from the Competition Act 2010. The Sarawak government is confident that Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, will be able to discharge its statutory obligations imposed by the proposed amendments. Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, owns the grid transmission system and is the state grid code operator. These factors place Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, in a very strong position to be the single buyer, and investors will have confidence that Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, will be able to procure the power such as solar or hydro and any other resources at equitable prices once their development for such power generation projects are completed and commissioned. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, sir, under the existing provision of Section 4(5) of the Electricity Ordinance, a license is not required for any installation not exceeding 5 kilowatt-hour rated capacity. This bill proposed to increase this threshold of 5 kilowatts to 50 kilowatt to facilitate and promote renewable energy sources, especially solar and hydro, for electricity generation in the near future. With the advancement in solar panel technology for higher wattage capacity, 50 kilowatt solar system can be easily installed on typical rooftops for domestic and small commercial and industrial premises for self-consumption or when connected to the grid to participate in the net and energy metering NEM scheme with the single buyer procuring the excess electricity. Dato' Speaker, the amendments have provision for special agreement which will be entered between a licensee and a consumer or single buyer, or between a consumer and the single buyer where A, electricity is sold, purchased or supplied in excess of 5 megawatts, requiring special terms and conditions relating to offtake, reliability of supply, and arrangement for security of payment of electricity supply at rates mutually agreed by the parties, and B, relating to sale and the conveyance of the solar power produced in the excess of 50 kilowatt. Dato' Speaker, sir, to harness the abundant renewable energy sources of the rivers in Sarawak, which have a potential to generate 20,000 megawatt of hydropower, the amendment provides for the issuance of licenses for development of cascading hydro station or installation along some of our rivers through regulating the flow of waters or impounding. This creates greater sustainability in the use of water for hydroelectricity, as cascading dams along rivers will reduce inundation of land areas for the reservoir and enable Sarawak government to study and implement pump storage for hydropower to ensure reliability of power generation, especially during seasonal variation of water levels in our rivers. Datuk Speaker, sir, a provision is incorporated to strengthen the sale of electricity outside of Sarawak. The abundant resources of renewable energy, especially solar and hydro in Sarawak, provides for its development, which can be exported to neighboring countries. This will position Sarawak as the powerhouse for renewable energy in the region and support the progress of ASEAN Power Grid, APG, to ensure greater regional energy security and sustainability on the basis of mutual benefit. Datuk Speaker, sir, there is a strong correlation in high energy demand with rapid economic growth of the country. Under PCDS 2030, the Sarawak aims to achieve economic prosperity by doubling its gross domestic product, GDP, by the year 2030. The electrical infrastructures need to be implemented timely, and that the operation and the maintenance of such system need to be undertaken periodically to ensure safe and high reliability of power supply in the near future. In this regard, Datuk Speaker, sir, the amendment of the bill provides provision that strengthen the access to the land needed to build transmission line or any electricity supply installation. This provision proposes that the Superintendent of Land and Survey Department to discharge his power to exercise the right reserved to the government as stipulated under Section 37(a) of the Sarawak Land Code, which reads, Government's right of drainage, etc. 37, all land shall be subject to the following implied reserve to the government. A, the right without payment of compensation, therefore, of making upon all land, drain, sewers, and ditches, of laying down pipes and cables for water, gas or electricity, of erecting poles and wires for electric power, communication towers, and of using, repairing, and maintaining the same, provided that if such works interfere with improvements, permanent buildings, or cultivated ground, such compensation shall be allowed for the disturbance or damage as shall be determined by the superintendent. Datuk Speaker, sir, this amendment will also permit for any well-lived agreements signed between the landowner or the occupier with the licensee to be used as caveat by the licensee to protect the right of way for transmission lines passing under, through, or above land by virtue of Section 173(a) of the Sarawak Land Code, which read, caveat against dealing 173. Any person, A, claiming to be entitled or any claiming to be entitled to or to be beneficially interested in any land, estate, or interest under this code by virtue of any unregistered agreement or other instrument or transmission, or any trust expressed or implied or otherwise howsoever, or by virtue of a license issued pursuant to Section 65(b) of the Forest Ordinance, caption 126, bracket 1958 edition, for the establishment of a planted forest, may at any time lodge with the registrar a caveat in Form 0 in the first schedule. Datuk Speaker, sir, the amendment of this bill also enhances the provision for enforcement on offences, penalties, rules as follows. A, expanding the protection to the licensee for obstruction of their duties under the ordinance as an offence. B, increasing the penalties for the existing offences for tampering of installation that causes danger and dishonest abstraction and use of electricity. C, introducing new provision for 1, combining of offences, and 2, unauthorized loading, feeding, transmitting power into the grid system, and D, empowering to make rules on levy of surcharge, resolution of disagreement over tariff, and on matters related to electricity. That is because to protect the environment arising from the use of electricity, the amendments provide for the minister to issue directive to the licensees to adopt and comply with the government policies and initiative to reduce emission of greenhouse gases. That is because with the passing of this bill, the amendment thereby enhances, strengthens, and improves provision in the present ordinance. With these amendments, Sarawak government will be able to facilitate the implementation of the strategies in PCDS 2030 for energy transition to clean renewable energy and to create a robust, well-regulated electricity industry to support the sustainable development of Sarawak to become the regional powerhouse of ASEAN in the near future. It would provide opportunities for our people and investors to partake in power generation, make available more job opportunities, and provide Sarawak with additional sources of revenue. I therefore beg to move, Dr. Speaker, sir.
Dr. Speaker, I beg to second.
May I now call upon honourable members of this August House to debate on the second reading of this Electricity Amendment Bill 2023. Is there any honourable member or members who wish to speak? Please indicate. Yang Berhormat Bakalalan, please.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to take part in the debate on this bill. On 25th September 2015, Malaysia, together with 192 countries in the United Nations, adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, whose 17 goals call upon countries to build not only more sustainable development, but also resilient and inclusive development for all. The Premier has often emphasized Sarawak's commitment to the pillars of Sustainable Development Goals number 7, of which is affordable and clean energy. That is, to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Mr. Speaker, scholars and social activists insist that access to electricity is a basic human right. There is a case law in India that electricity is one of the fundamental rights for existence and protected under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. Article 21 is in parimatarya with our Article 5 of the Federal Constitution, which states that no person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty save in accordance with law. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you are aware that courts' decisions in India are very persuasive on our courts in Malaysia. I am of the view, Mr. Speaker, that access to electricity is indeed a human right. Therefore, I am deeply concerned about the amendments made by Clause 20 of the bill to Section 27 of the principal ordinance, which arguably limits the obligation of licensee to supply electricity to the applicant, any applicant. Specifically, under the amended section 273A and B, the licensee is not obligated to supply to the applicant if A, the applicant or the premises has been previously discontinued under section 29 of the principal ordinance, or B, any money due and owing by the applicant to the licensee has not been fully paid. Mr. Speaker, the amended section 27 would mean that the licensee or electricity supplier or SEB is able to penalize landowners who are not at fault and not the Iran electricity consumer, who may be an entity or person distinct from the ownership of the premise. Legally, it entitles SEB to withhold the supply of electricity for a new account in perpetuity until either the old account is cleared by the Iran account holder or the new account holder is forced to pay the old bill to get his account registered to the premise. As a matter of comparison, Section 25 Electricity Supply Act 1990, the ESA, TNB's exception to the duty to supply, does not tie previous Iran electricity accounts to affect the application of a subsequent electricity account holder's right to be supplied electricity. In a sense, there is no privity of contract between the earlier account holder to the next. The ownership of the same land is not a nexus that extends the contractual matrix. Mr. Speaker, hence, it is worth asking whether or not it is prudent to allow this added exception to the duty to supply electricity. Mr. Speaker, Section 8 of the bill amends Section 4G of the Principal Ordinance to allow any person to develop, build, and maintain a solar power installation with a generation capacity not exceeding 50 kilowatts to their own use. However, for installation with a generation capacity in excess of 50 kilowatts, a license is required. Whilst the 50 kilowatts limit in the amendment might be sufficient for average households and some small farms, it could potentially restrict larger farms and other businesses with higher energy needs from being fully self-reliant on solar power. What is the rationale behind the limit of 50 kilowatts? What studies or numbers is this figure based on? Will this 50 kilowatts limit be a hindrance to larger farms? The requirement to apply for license for generation of solar power in excess of 50 kilowatts, while understandable, should be made as simple as possible so that homeowners will not be inconvenienced or discouraged from installing solar energy system due to confusing and or prolonged red tape. So, Mr. Speaker, solar power will become an increasingly popular alternative or an important supplementation to grid electricity in the coming years. The generation of solar power is a positive step towards clean energy and should be promoted and incentivized by the government. It is yet another measure to push us towards net zero emission in 2050, which we are committed to achieving. I hope the Honourable Minister will consider seriously these issues that I had just raised and make amendments, if need be, in the near future. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Yang Berhormat Berkelalan. Before we proceed, I would like to inform this August House humbly that I'm still a director of Sarawak Energy Berhad, position which I held before my appointment as Deputy Speaker. But as a matter of interest, I'm here as a middleman. I'm not going to participate in the debate or vote. But I hope there will not be an issue with you people in the Dewan. Thank you very much. May I call upon YB Balingian, please.
Datuk Speaker, sir, my sincere thanks, sir, for letting me participate in this August House debate on the Electricity Amendment Bill, which provide for the amendment of Electricity Ordinance, Chapter 50. Propose a substantial modification to Sarawak Electricity Ordinance, Chapter 50 in the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 to encourage public-private investment in solar and hydropower projects. The primary revision seeks to promote the government transition to clean and renewable energy. This is an excellent opportunity for Sarawakian individual and investor to participate in Sarawak Renewable Energy Program. I hope SEB will come out with guidelines for the one individual house or long house can install solar power for their consumption and feed the excess energy to the power grid. Number two, investors supply power to the grid by installing large-scale solar power panel, hydropower plant, and biomass power plant. Export power to our neighbor such as Brunei, Kalimantan, Sabah, or even Singapore for that matter. Biomass energy production need to be improved in Malaysia, and Sarawak can take this opportunity to be a leader in biomass energy production. Biomass sources are from the large palm oil plantation and mills in Sarawak. Agriculture waste, animal waste, domestic waste, etc. Biomass energy can produce sustainable, eco-friendly biofuel to replace diesel for land and air transportation. Biomass can also be converted to bioethanol fuel to replace petrol. Again, Malaysia needs to catch up in bioethanol technology, an opportunity for Sarawak to take up leadership in this technology. Hence, a bioethanol policy needs to be put in place. Finland and Sweden are excellent example of how biomass energy is a large part of their country's sustainable energy portfolio. Since Sarawak has a high percentage of sustainable, eco-friendly power supply, opportunities need to be looked into doing carbon trading with high energy consuming countries such as Japan, Taiwan, Korea, and even Singapore. The measure supports Sarawak's commitment to environmental sustainability and the reduction of carbon emission with an emphasis on lowering greenhouse gas emission. Upon passing of this law, it will allow the authority to enter an occupied land to establish installment and right way for the supply line. It also enhances provision for offences, penalty, and rule enforcement. The overall goal of the modification are to enhance Sarawak leadership in clean energy in the region, offer economic possibilities, and establish a strong and environmentally conscientious electrical business. Considering everything, I beg to support the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, YB Balangel. Next, may I call upon Bukit Semuja, Yang Berhormat Bukit Semuja, please.
Terima kasih, Datuk Speaker. First of all, I would like to thank for the opportunity and chance to join our fellow ahli-ahli yang berhormat to debate on the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 in this House that was tabled a moment ago by our Honorable Member for N27, Sebuyau, the Minister of Utility and Telecommunications Sarawak. Tabling the bill is very timely and to ensure that our beloved state is able to achieve the PDCS 2030 as planned, and also to speed up the target of 100% electricity supply to the whole state in the year 2025, including the rural areas. Our SEB, Sarawak Energy Berhad, being the single buyer under the bill, is making initiative to ensure that our rural areas or the last mile in reference to this electricity supply by formulating the Rural Power Master Plan. Sarawak is facing a huge area that is to be covered. The physical and geographical features of the land, which is sometimes difficult to enter, and lack of road connectivity, hindered the smooth implementation. Thus, among others, SEB aimed to accelerate rural electrification through the expansion of high voltage distribution network for the existing grid under the Rural Electrification Scheme, RES, and the Rural Power Supply Scheme, RPSS. And for those remote areas where it's very costly for the grid line, Sarawak Alternative Rural Electrification Scheme, that is RES, a renewable alternative system is very appropriate, while the standalone solar hybrid power station is another alternative. Dato' Speaker, beside our state size and its land features, the other setback faced by our government to achieve the 100% electricity supply is the way live or the access issue. These main challenges is due to the land dispute, grievances within villages, or between neighboring villages or rumah panjang, overlapping claims, or assessed by our plantation operator. With this bill, we hope that the relevant authorities, such as the Land and Survey Department, Public Work Department, Resident and District Office, to continuously engaging with the community and stakeholders to resolve this value issue. With this collaboration and cooperation between all stakeholders, which include landowners, villagers, it's hoped that the implementation of this rural electrification scheme able to meet the state vision for the full coverage be easily achieved in the year 2025. Dato' Speaker, the state capability in producing large amount of green and renewable energy that attract interest of many countries such as in Kalimantan, Indonesia, Singapore, and Brunei. As we know that Singapore, a developed country, intended to reduce its carbon emission for the power sector by importing 30% of electricity from the low carbon source by the year 2025. With the large amount of energy being exported also to our neighboring countries and including our neighbor state of Sabah, renewable energy or alternative energy resources is vital to sustain our output. Thus, with this bill, allowed our players to play their role effectively. Many researchers, engineers, environmentalists are expressing deep concern about the changes in the overall climate of the planet where fossil fuels are being continuously used to produce electricity. Burning of this fuel produces gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, which lead to global warming. Thus, alternative or renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, biomass need to be seriously pursued. Finding and using renewable sources of energy is one of the methods to combat the ever-increasing global warming effectively. Alternative energy and renewable energy gives quite a number of its advantages, namely, the supply will never run out. It is created from the source that is naturally replenished themselves, such as sunlight, wind, water, biomass, and even geothermal. Unlike the mining of coal, oil, and natural gas, which require expensive or extensive network of heavy machinery processing station, pipeline, and transportation. Secondly, zero carbon emission. There are no greenhouse gases and other pollutants created during the process, whereas coal power plant created around 2.2 pounds of carbon dioxide for every kilowatt hours of electricity. Solar panel and wind turbine create none of this. As we race to decarbonize our world, embrace energy sources that don't contribute to global warming, renewable are helping to provide us with emission-free energy, heat, cars, and even air travel. Thirdly, cleaner air and water. Renewable energy creates no pollution, waste, or contamination risks to the air and water. During the last lockdown, it gave us a glimpse of a clear sky in a major city of all over the world, where renewable energy has been a potential to make a clean air normal. Whereas fossil electricity can contaminate waterway, both from air pollution that falls to the ground during rain and waste material created during production processes. Fourthly, a cheap form of electricity. With rapid growth of renewable energy over the last 10 years, solar and wind power are now cheaper source of electricity in many parts of the world. In the United Arab Emirates, for example, an area well known for abundant land and sunny weather, a new sun farm recently secured the world's lowest price of solar energy. Fifth, renewable energy creates new jobs. With an increasing focus of global warming and many governments setting ambitious carbon reduction goals, one of the surprising renewable energy advantages is that it has quickly become a major source of a new job growth. In America, for example, renewable are now employed 3 times as many people as fossil fuel. The Bureau of Statistics predicts that the wind turbine technician, solar panel installer will be some of the fastest growing jobs over the next decade. So with this, Dato' Speaker, I conclude that Bukit Semuja is fully support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Bukit Semuja. Next on the list is Yang Berhormat Baleh.
Tuan Speaker, saya ingin merakamkan penghargaan terima kasih kepada Tuan Speaker kerana memberikan peluang kepada saya untuk membahaskan Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023 yang dibentangkan oleh Menteri Utiliti dan Komunikasi Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri bagi DUN N 27 Subuyau di Dewan Yang Mulia ini sebentar tadi. Tuan Speaker, Sarawak sangat bertuah kerana dilimpahi dengan sumber semula jadi yang luas. Mengambil contoh sumber air semula jadi yang ada di Sarawak mampu menjana tenaga elektrik dan dapat dipertingkatkan menerusi projek empangan hidroelektrik melata. Ini bukan sahaja dapat merancangkan kawasan di mana empangan hidroelektrik dibina, malah dapat mempertingkatkan lagi sumber tenaga elektrik di seluruh negeri Sarawak. Malah, visi Kerajaan Sarawak ialah untuk mencapai liputan penuh bekalan elektrik 24 jam di seluruh pelosok Sarawak menjelang tahun 2025. Dari maklumat yang saya perolehi, setakat suku pertama tahun 2022, liputan bekalan elektrik telah mencapai 98.6% di seluruh Sarawak dengan liputan elektrik di kawasan luar bandar sebanyak 96.5%, manakala kawasan bandar sudah mempunyai liputan bekalan elektrik sepenuhnya. Kerajaan Sarawak telah memperuntukkan sejumlah 2.37 bilion pada tahun 2019 untuk mempercepatkan program elektrifikasi luar bandar di bawah projek rakyat. Saya juga turut dimaklumkan bahawa 4 projek rakyat bekalan elektrik luar bandar telah dilaksanakan sejak tahun 2019, antaranya pembinaan 12 buah pencawang di mana 9 buah pencawang telah siap sepenuhnya di Tatau, Kenawit, Nangakesit, Sebauh, Sangan, Ngungun, Julau, Pakan dan Dalat. Manakala 2 buah pencawang di Belaga, Long Lama dan Bekelalan sedang dalam proses pembinaan. Berdasarkan laporan Mei 2022, sebanyak 657 buah kampung dan rumah panjang bersamaan dengan 14,100 isi rumah yang belum mendapat bekalan elektrik di seluruh Sarawak. Dan ini bersamaan dengan 1.4% secara keseluruhannya. Tuan Speaker, urus tabir tenaga elektrik yang efektif dan berkesan telah mendorong pihak luar termasuk negara luar menyatakan minat mereka untuk mendapatkan bekalan elektrik daripada Sarawak. Terkini, negara Singapura menyatakan hasrat mereka untuk mendapatkan 1,000 megawatt tenaga elektrik dari Sarawak. Pengeksportan tenaga ke Singapura hanya melibatkan bekalan elektrik sementara pembinaan kabel bawah laut sepanjang 700 km akan ditanggung oleh negara Singapura. Kapasiti tenaga elektrik sedia ada di Sarawak adalah 5,996 megawatt. Penggunaan atau permintaan tenaga elektrik di Sarawak ketika ini adalah berjumlah 4,398 megawatt. Justru Sarawak kini masih mempunyai baki tenaga elektrik sebanyak 1,478 megawatt. Selain Singapura, Sabah juga dalam perancangan untuk mengekspor tenaga elektrik dari Sarawak dan dijangka pelaksanaannya akan bermula mulai tahun 2024. Tuan Speaker, Sarawak mempunyai potensi pengeluar dan penyumbang tenaga elektrik yang berdaya saing di rantau ini. Loji hidroelektrik batang air pada tahun 1985 yang berkapasiti 100 megawatt merupakan titik mula dan peristiwa penting dalam perjalanan Sarawak ke arah tenaga boleh diperbaharui dan penyah karbonan. Ini disusuli empangan hidroelektrik Bakun di Belaga yang mampu menjana di antara 1,700 megawatt sehingga 2,110 megawatt pada tahun 2014. Empangan hidroelektrik Murum juga di Belaga yang mula beroperasi pada 2015 pula mampu menghasilkan antara 635 megawatt dan 944 megawatt tenaga elektrik. Dan 5 tahun lagi dari sekarang, iaitu pada tahun 2028, empangan hidroelektrik balik dijangka siap dan akan mula beroperasi dan dijangka mampu menjana 1,285 megawatt tenaga elektrik. Empangan hidroelektrik kelima di terusan lawas masih di peringkat kajian keboleh laksanaan. Justru itu, Rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Binaan 2023 ini adalah sangat penting bagi penambahbaikan ordinan yang sedia ada dalam usaha kita menjadikan Sarawak sebagai penggerak utama di ASEAN bagi tenaga hidroelektrik yang strategik. Tuan Speaker, dengan perancangan yang teratur dan strategik, dikenali urus tabir yang cekap dan efektif, Sarawak berada di landasan yang tepat untuk menjadi sebuah negeri yang maju menjelang 2030. Dengan hujahan ini, saya menyokong penuh agar Rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Binaan 2023 diluluskan di Dewan yang mulia ini. Sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Yang Berhormat Balik. Next, I'd like to call Yang Berhormat Kalaka, please, to make your speech.
Terima kasih Tuan Speaker kerana telah memberikan peluang untuk saya turut serta dalam perbahasan Rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023 pada petang ini. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera dan salam Sarawak maju makmur. Terlebih dahulu saya ingin mengucapkan tahniah kepada Ahli Yang Berhormat N27 Sebuyau merangkap Menteri Utiliti dan Telekomunikasi Sarawak, iaitu menteri yang bertanggungjawab yang membawa usul ordinan bagi rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023. Saya juga mengucapkan terima kasih dan tahniah kepada Kerajaan GPS atas usaha mewujudkan rang undang-undang berkaitan elektrik dan persekitaran yang akan merangkumi semua perkara yang melibatkan renewable energy, iaitu tenaga yang diperbaharui. Saya percaya undang-undang tersebut tidak pernah disentuh dalam mana-mana sistem perundangan Malaysia maupun di Sarawak sebelum ini. Penggubalan undang-undang tersebut adalah selaras dengan Kerajaan Sarawak, dengan usaha Kerajaan Sarawak dalam memperkasakan lagi penggunaan tenaga hijau di negeri ini dalam usaha pengurangan peningkatan suhu dunia. Tuan Speaker, rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023 memperuntukkan pindaan kepada Ordinan Elektrik Bab 50 dan tujuan am pindaan adalah untuk memudahkan dan memajukan dasar-dasar Kerajaan Sarawak mengenai peralihan tenaga kepada tenaga yang boleh diperbaharui, iaitu renewable energy. Selain itu, ia membolehkan para pelabur mengambil bahagian dalam pengeluaran ataupun penjanaan elektrik melalui pemasangan sistem tenaga solar dan kuasa hidro lata, cascading hydro di sungai kita, di sungai yang sesuai di seluruh negeri Sarawak. Dan untuk ACB, mereka boleh mendapatkan daripada sumber tenaga baharu ini untuk pengedaran dan pembekalan elektrik kepada pengguna melalui sistem grid penghantaran yang dimiliki oleh Sarawak Energy Berhad. Pindaan ini sekaligus akan mewujudkan industri penjanaan elektrik yang mantap dan dikawal selia dengan baik untuk menyokong pembangunan mampan negeri Sarawak untuk menjadi kuasa pembekalan elektrik serantau ASEAN, Regional Powerhouse. Sekaligus ia akan memberi peluang kepada rakyat dan pelabur untuk mengambil bahagian dalam berbisnes kuasa elektrik, menyediakan lebih banyak peluang pekerjaan dan menyediakan Sarawak dengan sumber pendapatan tambahan. Ia merupakan sektor ekonomi yang baharu untuk negeri Sarawak. Untuk makluman Tuan Speaker, pindaan ini merangkumi untuk menginstitusikan single buyer, iaitu Sarawak Energy Berhad, sebagai sebuah syarikat yang dimiliki sepenuhnya oleh Kerajaan Sarawak sebagai pembeli tunggal untuk industri elektrik di Sarawak. Kerajaan Sarawak yakin Sarawak Energy Berhad akan dapat menunaikan kewajipan yang dikenakan di mana ACB berada dalam kedudukan yang sangat kukuh untuk menjadi pembeli tunggal, di mana pertama, ACB memiliki sistem grid penghantaran dan pengedaran dan merupakan operator core grid negeri Sarawak. Dan semua kuasa yang dijana perlu menggunakan sistem grid penghantaran dan distribution untuk penghantaran kuasa elektrik dengan cekap. Oleh itu, ACB perlu dirujuk mengenai perkara ini bagi memastikan sistem yang dikendalikan itu selamat, berkesan dan cekap. Pelabur akan mempunyai keyakinan bahawa ACB akan dapat memperoleh kuasa seperti solar ataupun hidro dan sumber-sumber yang lain pada harga yang saksama sebaik saja pembangunan mereka untuk projek penjadaan kuasa tersebut selesai dan boleh dikomisionkan. Sarawak Energy Berhad sebagai pembeli tunggal menjalankan kuasa kerajaan dan oleh itu aktiviti komersial pembeli tunggal dikecualikan daripada Akta Persaingan 2010. Sarawak Energi Berhad Kedua. Sarawak Energi Berhad dah berusia 102 tahun pada tahun itu. Siapkanlah si cayak dengan ACB. Izinkan saya untuk beri pantun kepada ACB, Tuan Speaker. ACB banyak dapat anugerah menjadi kebanggaan negeri Sarawak. Pasarana elektrik terbina sudah. Pelabur asin berduyun-duyun datang ke Sarawak. Di bawah peruntukan yang sedia ada, lesen tidak diperlukan untuk sebarang kapasiti pemasangan tidak melebihi 5 kW. 5 kW fakta sejarah untuk mengecualikan pelesenan penjana mudah alih kecuali untuk kegunaan isi rumah ataupun pasaran. Di bawah pindahan ini syarat bagi lesen untuk menjana, menghantar, mengedar elektrik dinaikkan daripada 5 kW kepada 50 kW. Dengan kemajuan teknologi panel solar untuk kapasiti watt yang lebih tinggi, sistem solar 5 kW itu dengan mudah boleh dipasang pada bumbung rumah biasa, rumah untuk kita berbisnes, perindustrian domestik dan yang kecil untuk skim selco untuk penggunaan sendiri ataupun pemiteran ataupun net metering scheme yang telah diperkenalkan oleh ACB. Ini akan menggalakkan pengguna komersial dan perindustrian domestik dan kecil untuk menghasilkan kuasa elektrik daripada sumber yang boleh diperbaharui. Sebarang tenaga asas yang dijana oleh solar itu tadi boleh dijual kepada grid melalui pembeli tunggal iaitu ACB. Sumber tenaga lain termasuk dalam definasi sumber tenaga dalam pindaan di mana sumber tenaga termasuk yang boleh dijana daripada kuasa air, kuasa angin, tenaga suria, geothermal, biogas, biogesim, biofuel dan sisa biologi untuk digunakan bagi menjana kuasa elektrik. Walau bagaimanapun, pindahan ini mempunyai peruntukan khas untuk tenaga solar dan menyediakan stesen hidro dan pemasangan cascading. Datuk Amat Tuan Speaker, kajian awal menunjukkan bahawa Sarawak mempunyai 20,000 megawatt potensi untuk tenaga hidro. Dan pindahan ini akan memudahkan pembangunan stesen hidro ataupun pemasangan di sepanjang beberapa sungai yang sesuai melalui pengawalan aliran air ataupun halangan. Ini akan mewujudkan kelestarian yang lebih besar dalam penggunaan air untuk hidroelektrik kerana empangan bertingkat. Cascading hidro itu tadi di sepanjang sungai akan boleh mengurang banjir. Dan untuk takungan membolehkan kerajaan Sarawak mengkaji dan melaksanakan penyimpanan tenaga hidro bagi memastikan reliability penjanaan kuasa terutamanya semasa variasi bermusim paras air di sungai kita di seluruh negeri Sarawak. Memandangkan banyak sungai sebagai salah satu sumber yang banyak di Sarawak, Sarawak boleh memanfaatkan sumber-sumber yang boleh diperbaharui untuk menjana elektrik melalui pemasangan tenaga hidro yang sememangnya mesra alam tanpa sebarang pencemaran. Pemasangan kuasa hidro, cascading hidro ini yang memanfaatkan hidro boleh diperbaharui, tenaga yang boleh diperbaharui akan memberikan penjanaan kuasa yang mampan. Memanfaatkan teknologi baru. Apabila kita memanfaatkan teknologi baru, pemasangan hidro cascading seperti itu boleh mempunyai pelbagai peranan seperti membolehkan kita mengawal pengurusan air dan banjir yang lebih baik, penggunaan air untuk pengairan dan membangunkan bentuk ekonomi baru di kawasan tangkungan air. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, pindaan itu mempunyai peruntukan bagi perjanjian khas yang akan dimeterai antara pemegang lesen dan pengguna ataupun pembeli tunggal atau pengguna dan pembeli tunggal untuk elektrik yang dijual beli atau dibekalkan lebih daripada 5 megawatt atau berkaitan dengan penjualan dan pengangkutan tenaga solar yang dihasilkan melebihi 50 kilowatt. Tenaga solar yang dihasilkan diperolehi oleh atau dibekalkan kepada pembekal tunggal ACB dan tenaga solar yang dihasilkan pemegang lesen boleh dijual kepada pengguna lain jika pembeli tunggal SESCO memberitahu secara bertulis bahawa ia tidak memerlukan tenaga solar tersebut. Sekiranya ACB dan pemohon tidak dapat bersetuju dengan kadar harga tenaga solar yang akan dijual di bawah perjanjian, perkara tersebut hendaklah diselesaikan mengikut peraturan yang dibuat di bawah Seksyen 36 Ordinan Elektrik. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, walaupun peraturan kod grid negeri mempunyai peruntukan untuk saling berhubung dengan pihak luar di luar Sarawak, ordinan itu tidak mempunyai peruntukan mengenai penjualan kuasa kepada negara lain seperti Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia dan Singapura. Dengan sumber tenaga boleh diperbaharui, renewable energy, yang banyak terutamanya dalam bentuk solar. Pindaan ini bertujuan untuk mengukuhkan kedudukan negeri Sarawak menjadi kuasa besar penjana elektrik Asia Tenggara bagi ekspor kelimpahan tenaga boleh diperbaharui. Dan ia sekaligus menyokong Grid Kuasa Action APG untuk memastikan keselamatan, kemampanan tenaga serantau yang lebih besar berdasarkan manfaat bersama. Ekspor tenaga tidak akan menjejaskan kecukupan kuasa untuk kegunaan dalam negeri Sarawak kerana sumber boleh diperbaharui dari matahari yang sedia ada, boleh ditoreh untuk penjanaan kuasa ini. Ini boleh menjawab kerisauan Honorable Member Padungan. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, negeri Sarawak komited ke arah kelestarian alam sekitar dan pelepasan karbon. Ini sejajar dengan matlamat pembangunan mampan SDG Pertubuhan Bangsa-Bangsa Bersatu dan dasar alam sekitar negara di mana Malaysia komited ke arah pengurangan pelepasan karbon bersih di bawah perjanjian Paris. Bagi melindungi alam sekitar yang berpunca daripada penggunaan elektrik, pindaan ini memperuntukkan Menteri mengeluarkan arahan kepada pemegang lesen untuk menerima pakai dan mematuhi dasar dan inisiatif kerajaan untuk mengurangkan pelepasan gas rumah hijau. Dalam hal ini, Sarawak komited untuk meningkatkan, mempelbagaikan kapasiti renewable energy seperti solar dan biogesim. Di bawah rancangan strategi pembangunan pasca COVID-19 2030, sektor tenaga boleh diperbaharui akan memainkan peranan yang penting dalam penghindaran karbon melalui inisiatif untuk menggalakkan dan meningkatkan penyertaan sektor swasta dalam penjanaan renewable energy. Renewable energy membolehkan aktiviti ekonomi dilaksanakan secara mampan, meningkatkan lagi keyakinan pelabur terhadap Sarawak sebagai destinasi pelaburan pilihan di dalam dan di luar negara. Kita boleh himbau kembali macam ni penjanaan elektrik di negeri Sarawak. Dalam persidangan yang lepas, campuran kapasiti penjanaan elektrik Sarawak, kita melihat bahawa penjanaan melalui hidro sebanyak 60%, gas 23%, arang batu 17% dan diesel 1%. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, memandangkan Sarawak menyasarkan untuk mencapai kemakmuran ekonomi dengan menggandakan keluaran dalam negara kasar KDNK menjelang 2030, infrastruktur elektrik perlu dilaksanakan tepat pada masanya dan operasi, dan penyelenggaraan sistem tersebut perlu dilaksanakan secara berkala bagi memastikan bekalan elektrik mencukupi, selamat dan kebolehpercayaan yang tinggi. Sehubungan dengan itu, pindaan RUU ini memperuntukkan bagi memperkukuhkan akses kepada tanah yang diperlukan untuk membina talian penghantaran ataupun mana-mana pemasangan bekalan elektrik. Banyak projek talian penghantaran ACB mengalami kelewatan dan peningkatan kos kerana peruntukan sedia ada yang memberi kuasa kepada ACB untuk memasuki tanah dan lain-lain didapati tidak mencukupi dan tidak berkesan. Bayangkan, sebatang pokok kelapa dipinta bayar 18,000. Talian 11,000 kilovolt. ACB terpaksa dipasang secara zigzag menyeberang jambatan semata-mata oleh masalah izin lalu ini. Kadang-kadang untuk menyelesaikan masalah WLIP ini bukannya sebulan, bahkan menjakau selama setahun, dan projek terpaksa kadang-kadang dibatalkan. Siapa yang rugi? Rakyat dan pemohon bekalan elektrik yang rugi. Masalah WLIP ini bukan saja dihadapi oleh projek bekalan elektrik, tetapi ianya juga ampit kepada projek macam Molah Tower, projek bekalan air dan projek jalan raya oleh pihak JKR. Jalan jadi sempit disebabkan oleh WLIP. Di samping itu, pindaan yang dicadangkan kini akan mengiktirafkan perjanjian WLIP yang dimeterai antara pemegang lesen dan pemilik ataupun penghuni tanah yang kini diamalkan oleh pemegang lesen. Ini akan melindungi pemegang lesen daripada sebarang urusan selanjutnya oleh pemilik atau penghuni tanah seperti pemindahan tanah kepada pihak lain. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker, pengenaan minimum penalti akan dibuat kepada kesalahan peruntukan berkaitan untuk menguatkuasakan hukuman yang lebih ketat kepada pesalah seperti halangan kepada penyiasatan, meter tampering dan orang curi kuasa elektrik. Pemuatan elektrik yang tidak dibenarkan ke dalam sistem grid ACB tanpa mematuhi kod grid boleh menyebabkan gangguan bekalan, shutdown dan penutupan sistem yang dilakukan oleh pihak ACB akan menyebabkan kerugian dan kesulitan kepada orang ramai yang terjejas oleh blackout. Oleh itu, untuk melindungi sistem grid ACB, satu kesalahan baru diwujudkan menjadikan sesiapa yang tanpa kelulusan pemegang lesen beban menyampaikan ataupun mengambil bekalan elektrik, menyuntik bekalan elektrik ke sistem grid ACB melakukan kesalahan. Ini adalah memastikan, untuk kita memastikan kebolehpercayaan, reliability dan keselamatan, safety, talian penghantaran grid SESCO selamat dan kita tidak mengalami blackout. Dengan itu, Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker kelakar amat menyokong rang undang-undang elektrik pindaan 2023 ini. Sekian, terima kasih.
Member for Machang.
Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate in this debate regarding the Amendment Electricity Bill 2023. I would like to congratulate Honourable Member of Sarawak, Minister of Utilities and Telecommunications Sarawak for the success in presenting this bill. The Amendment Electricity Bill is a critical piece of legislation that deserves our support. This bill aims to revolutionize our electricity industry and pave the way towards a sustainable and environmental friendly future. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker, at its core, this bill seeks to institutionalize the concept of single buyer in the electricity market. Essentially, it means that instead of multiple entities buying electricity from various sources. There will be one central buyer who procure electricity on behalf of consumers. This single buyer will have the responsibility to ensure a stable supply of electricity at affordable prices. Thirdly, Mas Speaker, by establishing this single buyer, we can streamline the electricity market and eliminate inefficiency. This will enable us to negotiate better deals with power generators. It will also ensure a fair, level playing field for all participants in the industry. The bill includes provisions to drive the transition towards clean and renewable energy sources. In line with our commitment to combat climate change, this bill sets the stage for significant reduction in greenhouse gases emission. By incorporating provisions for renewable energy integration, the bill encourages the development and utilization of clean energy resources such as solar power and wind power. Mas Speaker, this means a shift away from fossil fuel-based electricity generation, which is a major contribution to greenhouse gas emission. With the goal of reaching net zero emission by 2050, the bill lays the foundation for a more sustainable energy future. This will recognize the importance of fostering innovation and investment in the electricity sector. It encourages the incorporation of advanced technology, smart grid, and energy storage solutions. By embracing this innovation, we can improve the efficiency, reliability, and reliance of our electricity infrastructure. The bill also promotes transparency and accountability. It establishes clear rules and regulations for the electricity market, ensuring fair practice and preventing the abuse of power. This fosters a competitive market environment benefiting consumers and driving innovation. Thirdly, Mas Speaker, to conclude, the Amendment Electricity Bill is a game changer in our journey towards sustainable and efficient electricity industry. By institutionalizing the single buyer concept in incorporating provisions for renewable energy, driving innovation and promoting transparency, this bill will set us on the right path. Together, we can create further power by cleaning and affordable electricity, which safeguard our environment for generations to come. Let us embrace this opportunity and work together towards a better and more sustainable future. With this, Machan support this amendment electricity bill. Thank you.
Member for Padungan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to debate in the Electricity Amendment Ordinance 2023. So far as it relates to the setting up of the feed-in tariff, which is the first part of the amendment bill, I support the idea and the passing of the provisions in the amendment bill to set up the tariff, although we are a bit behind our counterpart in West Malaysia. Nationally, the federal government has set up the Renewable Energy Act in 2011, and the Sustainable Energy Development Authority has been set up in 2011, which has implemented the feed-in tariff. Having said that, despite the fact that the SEDA, Sustainable Energy Development Authority, has been set up in 2011, they are not progressing very well, partly because of the licensing criteria that has made it a hurdle for potential investors to invest in the renewable energy facilities. So I hope that with the passing of this act, the single buyer, which is Sarawak Energy Berhad, will relax the licensing scheme and condition to make it easier for any potential investors who wish to invest to supply and sell back the renewable energy generated from their solar panel or other form of power generation. And also, I hope that after the passing of this act, the feed-in tariff will be attractive for investors to invest, and at certain point in time, the government may even consider giving some grants to help in the pushing this scheme forward. The second part of the bill, which is in respect of the enforcement part, I share my thought with the honourable member from Bacalalang, who has expressed his concern about clause 20, which seeks to amend Section 27 of the Principal Ordinance, and in particular, Section 27, the new Section 27, subclause 3, bracket A. Let me read it out. Notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, this is a clause in respect of the obligation to supply electricity by the SESCO. Section 27, bracket 3 states as follows, I quote, "Notwithstanding subsection 2, the licensee is not obligated to supply to the applicant if, bracket A, the supply to the applicant or premises has been previously discontinued under Section 29. Mr. Speaker, as far as the contract of supply of electricity to any consumer or any owner of the premises, it is basically a contract signed between the consumer and SESCO. In my course of practice, when it comes to tenancy agreement, where a premises is rented out to a tenant, there are two ways of application for supply of electricity. One is either the landlord himself make application for the supply of electricity to the premises. A second way is the tenant producing the tenancy agreement and apply to SESCO for the supply of electricity, in which case the account would be in the name of the tenant. And for that, SESCO usually encourage that tenants, that landlord should not use his own name in the account for the supply of electricity for the tenant. The reason being that some tenant may not pay the electricity promptly, some may resort to tempering the electricity, and at the end of the day, if the account of the electricity supply is in the name of the owner of the premises, then when the tenant abscond, the owner of the premises would have to pay up all the arrears charged to the account, because the owner is the account holder. So that is the contract law. Therefore, in the course of my practice, when there is a tenancy agreement, I always advise that, and I believe many lawyers do that, advise the landlord that if you want to rent your premises to a person, ask the person to apply for the a fresh account with the SESCO, and that the account be in the name of the tenant, so that he will not be liable if the tenant does not pay the electricity bill. Lately, despite the fact that the account holder is in the name of the tenant, when the tenant absconded and did not pay or clear his the outstanding electricity bill and run away, the SESCO refused to reconnect the electricity supply to the premises, and the owner of the premises cannot rent out his premises to a new tenant because SESCO simply refused to supply electricity, which I believe is wrong in the eye of law. And this also contradicts what run foul with what SESCO has published repeatedly a few times before. You know, SESCO has put up notices to advise consumers, property owners, when you rent out your property, make sure that the account of the SESCO is open in the name of the tenant, so that, you know, owner of the premises will not be penalized when the arrears is not paid up. It's not clear. But despite all this, the recent practice is that the SESCO is refusing to connect electricity supply to the owner of the premises. Now, we have launched a few challenges against such a decision, but which previously, I think, before the amendment of this bill, before this amendment, I believe SESCO is wrong in the eye of the law. But with this amendment, it will legitimize what the SESCO is practicing. And I believe that is not fair on landowners, because the landowners has acted in compliance with what SESCO has always advised them. Do not allow your tenant to use your account. And yet, when the tenant ran away, SESCO could not recover the arrears from the tenant. They go after the landowner. And that is, and now here comes the bill. I believe the bill is initiated by SESCO or Sarawak Energy Berhad through the minister in concern. And what the attempt to do is trying to legitimize what they have wrongly done to the consumer. And for that, I believe that we should not allow or support this provision. And also, not only that, the affected premises, SESCO refused to supply electricity. I've even a case where the premises of another premises where the applicant, when he rented out to the tenant and there's some outstanding bills, but SESCO apply across the board. His other, like premises 1, there is arrears of bill, but premises 2, 3, 4, all SESCO refused to connect electricity. I think that is very high-handed way of doing things. Yeah.
You mentioned that SESCO, is it mandatory requirement by SESCO asking the landowner that the registration of that particular meter should be by the tenant, or just a verbal advice or verbal suggestion?
Excuse me. Mr. Speaker, to answer Yang Berhormat from Satok, SESCO have published advertisement in newspaper advising landowners that do not allow your tenant to use your account, to use your name as the account holder for the electricity supply. Would that not be enough representation for the tenant to comply? And I don't see where Satok is getting on.
Breaking the particular promises, you know, that is serious allegation. To me, it's a serious allegation. But if it is a requirement as a condition for them to put the meter there, then they have a right in law to sue SESCO. But if it's not mandatory, there's no, there's not a compliant requirement. There's nothing in law as you are a practitioner yourself.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know where Satok is getting at. All right, I just simply go understand what he is trying to, what point he is trying to drive. But what I'm saying is that SESCO, being the sole supplier of electricity, has made that representation to owners of properties, property owners that, you know, if you rent it out your property, don't allow the tenant to use your name as the account holder for the supply of the electricity to the property. And with that, wouldn't it be reasonable that the landowners will assume that, okay, if the account is not in my name, the account is in the name of the tenant, and by the law of contract, it is between tenant and the tenant and SESCO. And the supply of electricity does not have a proprietary interest in land, and therefore it cannot attach to the land. It is a contractual relationship between the two persons. You see, therefore, that's why I say it's wrong. But what this amendment is trying to do is try to legitimize what has been wrongly practiced by SESCO. Yes.
Mandatory requirement of compliance, you know. Otherwise, it's not breach by SESCO.
Okay, point taken. Member for Padungan, you can move to another point. Yeah. You've made the point. So, no, that's right. You can move to another point.
Yeah, I see. The speaker agree with me.
No, I'm not agree. I'm not agree. I'm not agreeing. Because it becomes controversial and it bogged down only on one point. You can move to another point.
I think we just, Mr. Speaker, we just passed the Ombudsman Act, whereby, you know, the government is claiming that he wants to practice fair practices. There's no abuse, reasonableness of the of statutory bodies. SESCO is one of the public service agency which provide public service to the people. And how can you just refuse to supply electricity? It's not that I didn't or do not want to give it to you, Tupong. Is that the Mr. Speaker asked me to move on. I'm most willing to give you the chance to interject.
Leave it to the minister to reply. Satok had made a point, whether it's mandatory or advisory. You have made a point. It is a representation.
Yes.
Because of the advertisement by SESCO, therefore enough representation to make the landlord to comply. So it's clear. So the minister may rule.
Yes,
okay, proceed.
Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I believe that this is a provision that is too oppressive and too unfair to landowner. And I believe Satok has has also some properties for renter, And one day you may be victimized by this law, this provision that you will be supporting in this house. No, it's not about mandatory or not mandatory. No, I'm talking about the fairness of this bill. I'm talking about the fairness of the provision of this bill, whereby you penalize the landowner, the landowner for the fault of the tenant who do not pay the renter, or not pay the renter, who do not clear or pay the electricity bill. And despite the fact that, the account is in the name of the tenant and has nothing to do with the landowner. Simple as that. Simple as that. So we should not support such a draconian law. And Mr. Speaker, while I'm on the point of disconnection of electricity by SESCO, some of the clauses in this bill on the disconnection of electricity supply. It has been decided by our courts of law that the disconnection of electricity supply is very draconian, very high-handed measure, and it should be used as a last resort. And therefore, before any disconnection of electricity supply to premises, at least a court order should be obtained. Otherwise, I think it is subject to a lot of abuse, especially in the case of faulty meter. I'm talking about faulty meter. The meter may not be tampered by the account holder or the owner of the premises, but as time goes by, the meter can become faulty, like all electrical appliances. When the meter is faulty, become faulty, and SESCO come and do the meter testing and find the meter faulty, what SESCO does is it will make a rough calculation and charge it back date 36 months and slap the landowner or the account holder with a bill for the 36 months of shortfall. You don't know when the meter becomes faulty, but the presumption or the rights given to SESCO under the Electricity Act is 36 months from the date of discovery of the faulty meter. And if there is a case, it is itself subject to challenge. That allegation of arrears is subject to challenge in court. But if the SESCO is going around disconnecting electricity supply to the premises, I mean, it is, in a way, is circumventing the process, the judicial process, and using its own self-help method, a very high-handed self-help method, to force the consumer and the account holders to pay up your debt. So I urge that, despite having this power, please respect the rule of law and the principle of law that has been set up by our judicial, our courts of law, that this disconnection process should be a measure of last resort. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Opal.
Tidak saya baca. Terima kasih yang berhormat Tuan Sri Utama Speaker. Terima kasih kerana memberi ruang kepada saya untuk membahaskan rang undang-undang elektrik pindaan 2023 yang telah dibentangkan oleh Yang Berhormat Menteri Utiliti dan Telekomunikasi yang juga ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N27 sebeliau di Dewan yang mulia ini. Pindaan terhadap Electricity Ordinance 2016 melalui rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023 adalah sangat tepat pada masanya, bersesuaian dengan halat tuju Kerajaan Sarawak yang memberi penekanan kepada kelestarian alam sekitar dan penggunaan teknologi hijau ataupun green technology. Antara inisiatif yang telah dan sedang dilaksanakan di bawah pasca COVID-19 ataupun PCDS 2020 ialah pembangunan ekonomi mapan, tenaga boleh diperbaharui, serta keterangkuman sosial dan alam sekitar. Sarawak telah bercita-cita tinggi menjajarkan PCDS 2030 untuk mengembangkan pelan tindakan ekonomi strategik awal di bawah koridor tenaga diperbaharui Sarawak atau SKO yang telah dilancarkan pada tahun 2008. Intipatinya ialah kuasa hidro boleh diperbaharui akan menjadi antara enjin utama untuk mencapai matlamat iklim peralihan daripada penjanaan elektrik secara konvensional yang menghasilkan karbon dioksida ataupun CO2 kepada penjanaan elektrik bebas karbon. Sebagai penyedia tenaga boleh diperbaharui terbesar di Malaysia pada masa ini, Sarawak boleh memainkan peranan yang sangat penting di dalam mempercepatkan peralihan tenaga rantau ini dengan menjalinkan kerjasama dengan negara-negara jiran serta berkongsi sumber tenaga. Sarawak sangat bertuah dalam aspek penghasilan tenaga hijau yang maksima kerana memiliki sumber alam semula jadi yang luas dan belum diteroka. Ini merupakan aset penting bagi penyediaan dan pengeluaran tenaga boleh diperbaharui sejajar dengan objektif kerajaan Sarawak untuk mempunyai infrastruktur tenaga terkini atau a well-developed power infrastructure by 2030 with the target of full coverage of electricity and reduce electricity interruption. This will serve as an enabler to unlock the potential for localized economic development in rural area. Tan Sri Dato' Mas Speaker, memetik ucapan Premier Sarawak semasa membentangkan cadangan belanjawan negeri 2024 kemarin, beliau menyatakan bahawa kerajaan Sarawak sedang menggubal dasar peralihan tenaga ataupun ETP bertujuan untuk memastikan Sarawak dan rakyatnya mempunyai tenaga yang selamat, bersih, berpatutan, cekap dan boleh dipercayai. Ini dapat direalisasikan kerana Sarawak mempunyai banyak sumber tenaga yang boleh diperbaharui seperti tenaga hidro, tenaga angin dan kuasa solar. Lain-lain sumber tenaga adalah seperti biogas, biomass, biofuel dan juga biological waste yang boleh menghasilkan tenaga elektrik. Sumber-sumber ini boleh digunakan untuk menjana elektrik yang bersih dan berpatutan yang dapat membantu mengurangkan kebergantungan Sarawak kepada sistem penjanaan tenaga secara konvensional dengan menggunakan bahan api fosil, seterusnya dapat mengurangkan pencemaran alam sekitar serta mengawal perubahan iklim serta suhu dunia. Justru itu, saya menggesa pihak Sarawak Energi Berhad ataupun SEB untuk segera menghasilkan pelan tindakan bagi membangunkan penggunaan tenaga boleh diperbaharui seperti penggunaan kuasa solar atau kincir angin di kawasan-kawasan strategik di Sarawak dan mempercepatkan pelaksanaan projek tenaga seumpama ini ke dalam sistem grid bekalan elektrik luar bandar di Sarawak. Penggunaan kuasa solar bukan saja boleh menyebabkan muka bumi kita ini dari kemusnahan, malah dalam jangka panjang boleh menjimatkan kos tenaga elektrik kepada pengguna. Tan Sri Dato' Mas Speaker, sebagai tambahan kepada tenaga boleh diperbaharui, dasar peralihan tenaga juga akan menggalakkan pembangunan hidrogen hijau, biotenaga dan carbon capture usage storage atau CCUS, yaitu penangkapan, penggunaan dan penyimpanan karbon. Teknologi-teknologi seumpama ini dapat membantu untuk menyah karbon sektor tenaga Sarawak bagi mengurangkan kerosakan lapisan ozon dan mencapai matlamat iklim jangka panjang. Ini sekaligus akan meletakkan Sarawak sebagai pengemudi dalam memperkenalkan green energy ataupun tenaga hijau secara total dari segi dasar dan pelaksanaan, bukan saja di Malaysia, malah di seluruh rantau Asia Tenggara. Kesungguhan dan kekuatan Sarawak dalam penghasilan tenaga telah menarik minat negara Singapura untuk mengimport sebanyak 1,000 megawatt tenaga elektrik ke negara mereka. Sebelum ini, Sarawak juga telah membekalkan tenaga elektrik kepada rakan kita di Kalimantan, Indonesia, dan pada tahun hadapan, yaitu tahun 2024, jiran kita negeri Sabah di bawah Bayu juga turut berminat untuk mengimport tenaga elektrik bagi mengatasi permasalahan kekurangan elektrik di Sabah. Sarawak pada masa ini merupakan penyedia terbesar tenaga boleh diperbaharui di Malaysia untuk hampir 3 juta penduduk, di mana 70% daripada jumlah campuran penjanaan adalah dari sumber kuasa hidro yang boleh digunakan bagi menghasilkan hidro rendah karbon. Justru itu, Sarawak kini semakin menjadi pilihan pelabur-pelabur negara luar kerana keberkesanan dasar, pelaksanaan tenaga hijau, dan yang paling penting adalah kestabilan politik yang terdapat di Sarawak. Kita harus pelihara kestabilan politik di Sarawak ini seperti kita menjaga kekayaan sumber asli dan sumber tenaga yang kita ada. Tadbir urus kerajaan Sarawak yang telus dan kebolehpercayaan juga turut menarik minat ramai pelabur industri dari luar untuk melabur di Sarawak. Ini memberi impak yang positif kepada sumber perolehan kerajaan Sarawak dan rakyatnya, sehinggalah Sarawak baru-baru ini telah dinobatkan sebagai sebuah wilayah berpendapatan tinggi oleh Bank Dunia. Justru itu, saya menyeru semua rakan-rakan ahli yang berhormat di Dewan yang mulia ini untuk menyokong rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023. Sebagai penutup, saya dari N1 Opar dengan ini menyokong penuh rang Undang-Undang Elektrik Pindaan 2023 yang telah dibentangkan oleh Menteri Utiliti dan Telekomunikasi yang juga adun N27 Seboyau. Sekian, terima kasih.
Member for Talian.
Terima kasih Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker. Selamat lemai ngagai kita semua. Salam sejahtera dan salam Sarawakku sayang. Terlebih dahulu saya ingin merakamkan ucapan tahniah sekali lagi kepada Sebuyau merangkap Menteri Utiliti dan Telekomunikasi, iaitu Menteri Bertanggungjawab yang membawa usul untuk pindaan Electrical Ordinance. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, berdasarkan pindaan-pindaan yang dicadangkan secara keseluruhannya, Talian bersetuju sepenuhnya dengan pindaan berkenaan dalam mengukuhkan lagi Electricity Ordinance ini. Ordinance Elektrik Sarawak berfungsi sebagai rangka kerja undang-undang komprehensif yang mengawal selia pelbagai aspek penjanaan, pengedaran dan penggunaan elektrik di bawah bidang kuasa Sarawak. Ordinans itu merangkumi pelbagai aspek berkaitan pemasangan elektrik, protokol keselamatan dan langkah-langkah pengawal seliaan. Ia juga merangkumi peraturan yang berkaitan dengan pendaftaran kontraktor elektrik, pengenaan yuran, pengeluaran lesen dan penubuhan keperluan keselamatan untuk projek elektrik. Undang-undang ini juga menggariskan peraturan-peraturan yang berkaitan dengan pembumian pemasangan, keperluan keseluruhan untuk pemasangan dan arahan khusus yang dikeluarkan oleh kementerian. Undang-undang itu termasuk peraturan yang berkaitan dengan penalti, pengecualian, langkah peralihan dan penjimatan serta borang dan yuran. The Electricity Rules 1999 yang telah digubal menurut Kod Elektrik termasuk spesifikasi dan arahan lanjut untuk mematuhi peraturan kod. Peraturan-peraturan ini merangkumi beberapa isu termasuk petikan dan permulaan tafsiran pengenalpastian individu kompeten yang bertanggungjawab untuk mengemukakan rancangan penentuan permintaan semasa maksimum untuk pemasangan domestik dan peruntukan tambahan. Penggubalan undang-undang baharu maupun pembinaan ordinan-ordinan sedia ada yang berkaitan sudah pasti bertujuan untuk penambahbaikan yang memberikan manfaat penuh kepada kerajaan Sarawak. Tan Sri Dato' Amal Speaker, dalam menambah baik ordinan-ordinan yang sedia ada untuk memastikan pelaksanaan dasar-dasar kerajaan sentiasa up to date, kerajaan kita telah menerokai pelbagai sumber tenaga baharu dan lebih mesra alam. Saya akan menyentuh kepada pandangan berkaitan penerokaan sumber tenaga baharu untuk menampung permintaan dan kebergantungan kepada tenaga elektrik konvensional di samping mempelbagai serta menyediakan backup kepada sumber tenaga sedia ada. Solar dan hydropower adalah dua sumber tenaga alternatif yang berdaya maju yang boleh digunakan sebagai pengganti elektrik konvensional. Sumber-sumber ini merupakan pilihan utama tenaga boleh diperbaharui bukan sahaja di Sarawak malahan di seluruh dunia kerana kemudahan hidroelektrik yang besar memanfaatkan sumber asli negeri yang mencukupi untuk menyediakan tenaga yang kos efektif dan mampan. Penerokaan sumber tenaga alternatif yang lebih mesra alam dan boleh diperbaharui memerlukan kita untuk lebih memahami halangan dan prospek yang hadir dalam usaha untuk mengurangkan pergantungan kita kepada kuasa konvensional. Kajian ke atas tenaga solar dan menerokai kaedah cascading dam untuk mendapatkan kuasa hidro merupakan komponen penting dalam usaha ini. Tan Sri Dato' Amal Speaker, adalah penting untuk mengenal pasti halangan dan cabaran dalam penerokaan sumber tenaga baharu ini. Walaupun terdapat kemajuan yang ketara, tenaga solar masih menghadapi kekangan dari segi penyimpanan tenaga dan integrasi ke dalam grid elektrik. Selain itu, perbelanjaan modal awal yang diperlukan untuk penubuhan infrastruktur solar boleh bertindak sebagai disinsentif kepada banyak individu dan entiti. Tenaga solar adalah sumber tenaga yang boleh diperbarui dan bersih yang boleh digunakan untuk pelbagai aplikasi mulai dari rumah dan perniagaan hinggalah menyediakan elektrik ke kawasan terpencil. Sistem kuasa solar boleh dipasang di atas bumbung, ruang terbuka atau diintegrasikan ke dalam bangunan yang menawarkan faedah mengurangkan pergantungan kepada bahan api fosil dan mempunyai kesan alam sekitar yang rendah. Potensi kaedah cascading dam. Kuasa hidro sentiasa menjadi salah satu pilihan utama dalam bidang tenaga boleh diperbaharui dan cascading dam dilihat sebagai salah satu kaedah yang sesuai dilaksanakan di Sarawak. Cascading dam mempunyai keupayaan untuk menghasilkan kuantiti elektrik yang banyak dengan memanfaatkan tenaga kinetik yang wujud dalam pergerakan air. Dengan itu secara serentak mengurangkan kesan buruk terhadap alam sekitar dan penjagaan alam sekitar ini amatlah penting. Dalam melaksanakan pelbagai kaedah berkaitan penerokaan sumber tenaga baru adalah penting untuk mempertimbangkan akibat alam sekitar. Pelaksanaan cascading dam berpotensi menyebabkan gangguan habitat dan mengubah suai laluan asal sungai sekaligus memberi pengaruh kepada ekosistem dan masyarakat setempat. Mencapai keseimbangan yang harmoni antara penyediaan tenaga dan pemeliharaan alam sekitar adalah sangat penting. Cascading dam seperti yang dinyatakan sebelum ini melibatkan pembinaan beberapa empangan dalam satu siri di sepanjang sungai. Empangan ini boleh menjana elektrik melalui kuasa hidro menggunakan tenaga daripada air mengalir untuk menghasilkan kuasa bersih dan boleh diperbaharui. Cascading dam menyediakan sumber tenaga yang boleh dipercayai dan konsisten, terutamanya di kawasan yang mempunyai sumber air yang banyak. Mereka boleh menyumbang untuk pengurangan pelepasan karbon dan menyediakan pelbagai faedah lain seperti termasuk kawalan banjir, penyimpanan air, pengairan dan kawasan rekreasi untuk tarikan pelancongan. Tan Sri Dato' Amal Speaker, konsep menerokai kepelbagaian tenaga telah mendapat perhatian dan pengiktirafan yang ketara dalam beberapa tahun kebelakangan ini. Ianya berlaku di seluruh dunia. Ringkasnya, dapat disimpulkan bahawa tenaga solar dan hidroelektrik menjadi kaedah melalui kaedah cascading dam itu tadi mempamerkan potensi yang signifikan dalam mengurangkan pengantongan kita kepada elektrik konvensional di samping menambah kapasiti tenaga elektrik sedia ada. Untuk menangani keperluan tenaga kita dengan berkesan adalah penting untuk mengamalkan pendekatan komprehensif yang merangkumi pelbagai sumber tenaga, masing-masing mempunyai sifat dan kekangan yang unik. Pendekatan ini bukan sahaja berfungsi untuk mengurangkan risiko yang timbul daripada pengantongan berlebihan pada sumber tunggal, tetapi juga menggalakkan pembangunan idea-idea baru dan kebolehsuaian dalam infrastruktur tenaga kita. Dalam konteks menguruskan aspek pengalihan tenaga yang rumit adalah penting untuk memperuntukkan sumber ke arah usaha penyelidikan dan pembangunan, menyokong undang-undang yang menawarkan insentif untuk integrasi sumber tenaga alternatif dan memudahkan penglibatan aktif individu dan masyarakat dalam revolusi tenaga yang berterusan. Adalah penting untuk kita tidak melihat isu-isu yang ada ini sebagai halangan yang tidak dapat diatasi, tetapi sebagai prospek untuk memupuk landscape tenaga masa depan yang mampan dan saksama untuk generasi akan datang. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, dalam menjana pelbagai sumber tenaga baru berkaitan elektrik, sudah pasti kita ingin ada sebuah entiti yang boleh dipercayai dan berkemampuan untuk mengendalikan segala perkara berkaitan di pelbagai peringkat pelaksanaannya. Sarawak Energy Berhad adalah syarikat tenaga yang bertanggungjawab untuk penjanaan, penghantaran dan pengedaran elektrik di Sarawak. Antara fungsi utama Sarawak Energy Berhad adalah yang pertama, penjanaan kuasa. Sarawak Energy Berhad mengendalikan pelbagai loji jana kuasa termasuk loji jana kuasa hidroelektrik, haba dan gas untuk menjana elektrik bagi negeri ini. Kemudahan penjanaan kuasa mereka menghasilkan sebahagian besar keperluan tenaga Sarawak. Yang kedua, penghantaran grid. Syarikat bertanggungjawab untuk penghantaran elektrik iaitu SEB ini dari loji jana kuasa ke pelbagai pencawang di seluruh Sarawak. Ini melibatkan pengurusan dan penyelenggaraan rangkaian talian penghantaran dan pencawang untuk memastikan bekalan elektrik mudah didapati. Yang ketiga, sistem pengedaran. Sarawak Energy Berhad mengendalikan sistem pengedaran yang membekalkan elektrik ke rumah, perniagaan dan industri di seluruh Sarawak. Mereka mengawasi infrastruktur termasuk pencawang, pengedaran, transformer dan talian kuasa untuk memastikan bekalan kuasa tanpa gangguan. Yang keempat, pembangunan tenaga boleh diperbaharui. Sarawak Energy Berhad terlibat secara aktif dalam pembangunan dan promosi sumber tenaga boleh diperbaharui di Sarawak. Mereka komited untuk meningkatkan bahagian tenaga boleh diperbaharui dalam campuran penjanaan kuasa negeri termasuk tenaga hidro, solar dan biomas. Secara keseluruhan, Sarawak Energy Berhad memainkan peranan penting dalam memenuhi keperluan tenaga di Sarawak maupun di luar Sarawak dan sudah pasti mampu memacu pembangunan mampan dalam pembekalan elektrik ke serata wilayah. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, apa jua yang kita usahakan ketika ini sama ada mencadang dan meluluskan ordinan baharu maupun meminda ordinan sedia ada, semuanya adalah untuk kepentingan Sarawak dan kesejahteraan rakyat secara keseluruhannya. Dan apa yang kita lakukan pada hari ini adalah demi Sarawak yang lebih maju dan lebih makmur di masa hadapan. Maka dengan ini, Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker telian menyokong sepenuhnya pindaan ordinan ini. Sekian, terima kasih.
Member for Tupong.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker for giving me the opportunity to participate in the debate for the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 in this August House. I would also like to congratulate the member from Sebuyau, also the Minister of Utility and Telecommunication on this bill. Before I proceed, I would just like to speak my mind or my views on what the members from Padungan have just said. I understand that he feels bad about the tenant or the owner of the premises. But then again, Yang Berhormat Tan Sri Ahmad Speaker, renting your premises is a business decision. And a prudent business or investor must study the law before making any business decision and strategize to minimize the risk. So I feel it is unfair to put the blame to SEB in this matter, whereas it is the owner is at fault to a certain extent. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, sir, over the past few decades, Sarawak has been able to position itself to be self-sustaining in terms of electricity use in our industrial and household application. We have been able to produce our own electricity by harnessing the state's natural resources through hydropower, which makes up a significant portion of the total power generation mix. With our energy potential, Sarawak households are able to enjoy lower electricity tariff, which in fact is the lowest in Malaysia. This reflected the far-sightedness of our past leaders, as well as our current leaders, where low electricity tariff not only benefit the people, but our electricity itself has become a strong commodity for export. Cascading hydropower. With our topographical advantages and abundance of water, we have been able to harness electricity through our hydropower plants, and to date, studies indicate that Sarawak has a 20,000 megawatts of hydropower potential. I would also like to put on record on how respectable the world perceives Sarawak in the regards to hydropower when our Premier stood on the same stage with the President of Indonesia in delivering his keynote address during the World Hydropower Congress recently in Bali, Indonesia. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, this amendment serves to facilitate the development of cascading hydro station and installation at some of our rivers. With this approach, we can regulate the flow of water and enable improved sustainability of water for hydroelectricity. Cascading dams along our rivers will also be able to reduce the inundation of land areas for the reservoir and enable Sarawak government to study and implement pump storage for hydropower. And this will greatly improve reliability in power generation, particularly during variation of seasons, which affect water level at our rivers. Through the use of new technology, which I'm sure the government are leveraging on, cascading hydro installation can play its role to provide better water and flood management control, use of water for irrigation, and develop other forms of economic activities on the reservoir water bodies, and thus in turn giving returns to the rakyat. While we strive towards producing more electricity to meet demands from both domestic and outside Sarawak, the aspect of environmental sustainability must be also taken into account. Yang Berhormat Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, this amendment will also provide for a special agreement which will be entered between a licensee and a consumer of a single buyer, whereby electricity is to be sold, purchased or supplied in excess of 5 megawatts. This will give opportunity to our local investor or local business people to be involved in the power industry. Currently, the recognized single buyer is Sarawak Energy Berhad, which owns the transmission grid for the distribution and supply of electricity throughout Sarawak. With the single electricity buyer as provided for through this bill, I'm sure it will foster investment, as now other Sarawakians and investors can also take part in the electricity generation. Not only that, Yang Berhormat Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, a single buyer system will ensure the stability of the electricity supply and thus will guarantee a better and stable supply to the people. This will be the next step in the expansion of the electricity industry in Sarawak. As with the development of this sector, the volume of electricity will be increased. And with increased supply, we will be able to meet the future electricity demand and strengthen Sarawak's position as a regional power hub and to be the battery of Asia. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker Sir, although the State Grid Code rules have provision for interconnection to external parties outside Sarawak, I feel that the ordinance does not have provision on the sale of power to other countries like Brunei, Indonesia, and Singapore. And with the abundant renewable energy sources, especially solar, the amendment will benefit and will strengthen Sarawak's position to become the powerhouse of Southeast Asia for export of its abundant renewable energy, and support the progress of Asian power grid to ensure greater regional energy security and sustainability on the basis of mutual benefit. The export of power will not affect the adequacy of power for Sarawak internal use, as solar renewable resources from the sun are available to be tapped for power generation. As we develop our electricity sector, it is important that we place emphasis on electricity exports as well and turn it into a revenue source for Sarawak. This will not only improve Sarawak economy through the revenue collected, but also spurs other economic opportunities for collaboration in other related areas or industries. Tan Sri Speaker Sir, last night this August House passed the Environment Reduction of Greenhouse Gas Emission Bill 2023 in the spirit of responding to climate change and turning to environmentally sustainable practices. In the same spirit and in our vision towards net zero carbon, the amendment under the new Section 35A provides for the Minister to issue directives to the licensee to adopt and comply with government policies and initiatives to reduce emission of greenhouse gases in the generation, transmission, distribution, and supply of electricity. In this regard, Sarawak is committed to increase and diversify its renewable energy capacity, such as solar and biomass. Under PCDS 2030, renewable energy sector will play a key role in carbon avoidance via initiative to promote and increase private sector participation in renewable energy generation. This, in turn, will improve Sarawak's standing in the world, whereby renewable energy is sought after as an alternative to respond to climate change, as well as a component of environmental, social, and corporate governance, or ESG. Tan Sri Speaker Sir, as the world today relies heavily on safe and reliable electricity supply, it is pertinent that we give a legal framework for the installation of the supply lines. This is to expand and broaden the electricity coverage in all corners of Sarawak. With this amendment bill, we can now expedite and fulfill the needs of the people for uninterrupted electricity supply, particularly in the electricity-stressed areas. To my understanding, many SEB transmission lines suffered from delays and increased costs because of the existing provision empowering SCB to enter the land, etc., are found inadequate and effective. In addition, the proposed amendment will now recognize the way-leave agreement entered between the licensee and the owner or occupier of the land, which is currently being practiced by the licensee. This would protect the licensee against any further dealing by the owner or occupier of the land, such as transfer of land to another party. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker Sir, in conclusion, this amendment bill is timely as it solves existing problem that affects the delivery of rural electrification initiative by the Sarawak government and also addresses the need for increased power generation based on environmentally sustainable practices. I applaud the effort by our Gabungan Party Sarawak government to improve its effort toward full electrification of the state and the commitment towards Sarawak economic transformation. With this, Yang Berhormat Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker Sir, I beg to support the Electricity Amendment Bill 2022. Sekian, terima kasih.
Member for Tebedek.
Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, my sincere thanks, appreciation and utmost gratitude for granting me the opportunity in participating on this Electricity Amendment Bill 2023. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, firstly, I would like to congratulate the Minister for Utilities and Telecommunication and a member for DUN N27 Sabuyao for preparing and the success in tabling this Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 this afternoon. Taking into consideration the principal objectives of the bill, namely, number one, to promote the development of clean renewable energy, such as solar power and cascading hydropower. Number two, to advance the state government's policy to make Sarawak the regional powerhouse or hub in the ASEAN region. Number three, to promote the development of the electricity industry in Sarawak by institutionalizing a single buyer of electricity generated in Sarawak, either by those who want to produce solar power or generate hydropower using water resources in our rivers. And lastly, number four, to provide for better access onto land required for laying of supply lines and erection of transmission towers for distribution of electricity statewide. It is hereby necessary and mandatory to amend the Electricity Ordinance in bracket 50 that may pose or constitute a problem that prohibits or limiting the government's effort to achieve the above four principal objectives. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, yesterday, or on the 20th November 2023, this August House has passed a bill, namely the Environment Reduction of Greenhouse Gases Bill 2023, with the aim is to achieve a zero net greenhouse gases emission by 2025. It is a strategic bill. It is a very pragmatic bill to encourage and explore clean renewable energy. Currently, Malaysia, including Sabah and Sarawak, produce electricity to commercial centers, domestic consumption and industrial consumption via hydropower and thermal power by burning carbons derived from coal, fossil fuel, and gas. I wish to inform this August House that 70% of all global energy-related emissions is contributed by power generation, petrochemical refining and production, and including industrial manufacturing. These are very heavy emitting sectors, and these are not green energy and is not in line with our Sarawak mission to achieve zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, sir, having said that, it is of paramount importance that Sarawak, under the able leadership of the Right Honourable Premier, who is the Minister for New Economy, to explore other sources of green energy or clean, renewable energy such as solar power and cascading dam, which is believed to promote environmental sustainability and pose a lesser negative environmental impact to conserve and to preserve our rich biodiversity resources. It is believed that the cascading dam will help to reduce human-crocodile conflict. Our friend this morning talked about it, and improve water quality for the survival of fish in the affected rivers. The constant increase in demand for power-hungry industry, both domestically and internationally, demands more energy to be produced to enable Sarawak to achieve its mission to be the regional powerhouse in this Asian region. So it is very timely that today, this afternoon, we have heard the tabling of this bill, and I believe, or I hope, it should be supported by this august House. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, the Electricity Ordinance Amendment Bill 2023 will provide a new hope for all Sarawakians. This amendment will also become another game changer in our state pursuit to achieve a high income economy by 2030 through green and renewable energy. This provides opportunity for households to install solar panels at homes, which will greatly reduce domestic electricity bills borne by household owners, and any excess produced by these homes or household owners can be distributed via battery energy storage system to SEB or Sarawak Energy Berhad's transmission grid. With this model, Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, household income can be increased, and the Sarawak vision and mission of achieving a high per capita income for every household can be further accelerated. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, this model has been proven in this model has been proven in India and has been successfully implemented in a village called Modra village in Gujarat's Mehsana district in India. We hope that Sarawak, the ministry, kalau boleh bawalah kita backbencher sekali, visit and study how this first solar powered village is so successful and is very successful until today. With the amendment of Electricity Bill 2023, Sarawak can benefit tremendously. The export of power to our neighboring countries such as Indonesia, Singapore, Brunei, and we were told our sister state in the north, Sabah, is potentially becoming an income-generating initiative that will contribute positively to the Sarawak's consolidated fund for the much-needed foreign exchange that can be used to develop our state. The amendment to the bill will definitely enhance the creation of new industries. Current industries will evolve. Hence, this will create high-income jobs for our children, our grandchildren, and our future generation. Tan Sri Dato' Amat Speaker, sir, with that remark, Tabedu beg to support this Electricity Amendment Bills 2023. Thank you very much.
Member for Pelagus.
Speaker, Tan Sri Dato' Amat Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate on the second day of the Dun sitting in debating on Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 presented by our Honorable Minister of Utility and Telecommunication and also the Assemblyman for N27 Sebuyang. Dato' Amat Speaker, the principal objective of this bill for me are very clear, and that is to promote the development of clean renewable energy such as solar and hydropower cascading dam, which is more friendly to the environment. This bill also indicates the advancements of our Sarawak government policy to make Sarawak as a regional powerhouse or hub in the Asian region. The bill promotes and develops of electricity industry in Sarawak by institutionalizing a single buyer of electricity generated in Sarawak through green energy and to provide a better access into land required for laying of supply line, erection of transmission line, tower for distribution of electricity in Sarawak. Tan Sri Dato' Amat Speaker, in the single buyer concept, electricity generated by producers are sold and delivered to Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, identified as a single buyer. Through its transmission grid system for distribution and supply throughout Sarawak. Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB is financially stable with international investment credit rating and has excellent track record on the electricity generator, distributor, supplier of electricity and grid code operator. However, ECB still must comply with any regulation, codes, guideline, or direction with regard to its function as may be made or issued by the Minister or the Commission. And as the case may be, under this new amendment electricity ordinance, failure to adhere in any of the stipulated laws in the ordinance, the Minister may, upon the recommendation of the Commission, authorize or revoke the authorization of the single buyer by order published in the Gazette. Dato' Amat Speaker, in the uncertainty of the global economy and the rising cost of living worldwide, I commended our Sarawak Premier when he announced that the Sarawak government has no plan to increase the electricity tariff due to Sarawak's ability to generate power through hydroelectric dam. Our Premier stated that any tariff increase would burden the people and would jeopardize the state investment activities. Instead of increasing the electricity tariff, our Premier is doing the opposite by extending the electricity bill discount under Bantuan Khas Sarawak Kusayang, BKSS, from 1st July 2022 to 31st December this year. The estimated discount totaling so much, 120 million for the domestic users and 80.7 million for small businesses, and is expected to benefit 700,000 users statewide. Sarawak government has spent approximately 1.15 billion on this initiative since it was first introduced in 1st of April 2022. On latest development, Dato' Ahmad Speaker, the Sarawak government may start with what was mentioned in the newspaper, Sungai Gad and Kapit Division, to build cascading dam to generate power, provided the community they give their full support. Sungai Gad is suitable due to its fast-flowing current to build cascading dam to generate electricity power. The proposed cascading dam in Sungai Gad are not only for generating power, but the fast-flowing water for the dam can also be used to breed freshwater fish, ikan semah ataupun ikan empurau. Cascading dam, unlike other form of hydroelectric power project, it does not cause much damage to the environment because it is in stages. Hence, the local community are to be involved in the matters relating to the development of the proposed cascading dam. So, Yang Berhormat Tan Sri Speaker, for conclusion, I would like to put into record that main focus for this Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 are not only about Sarawak, future energy, but most importantly, the participation of the interested parties in Sarawak and maybe other investors from outside Sarawak. Hence, Pelagus strongly support the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023. Thank you, sir.
Member for Serembu.
Thank you, Tan Sri Speaker, sir. I rise before this August House to debate on the said Bill of Electricity Amendment 2023 that was tabled by Minister of Utilities and Telecommunications Sarawak and Honourable Member for Subuyao. Access to electricity is a basic human right and a key precondition for eliminating poverty and to accredit the level of development of any country. Electricity use and access are strongly correlated with economic development as well as social development in any country. Access to electricity to every sector of development is the pivotal plan for any country in the world. The access to finance, education, economic development, infrastructure, and industrializations are positively related to electricity access in the long run. Without access to electricity, economic development is limited and modern public services such as education and public health cannot be delivered to their intended beneficiaries. Given the importance of electricity in modern energy, this bill adequates well the needs of sustainable supply of electricity throughout the Sarawak land with efficiency and sufficiency. That is why the supply of electricity should not come from a single source, but should include all the available resources that might generate power to our main grid. As been mentioned by YAB Premier in his various speeches, Sarawak will maintain at least 60% of its power generation's capacity mix from renewable sources by 2030 and become the green battery of ASEAN, positioning itself to be the Southeast Asia powerhouse through affordable, reliable, renewable energy. It shows that we are moving well towards the green energy and it's need this strong bill to support the target. Thanks to speakers. As for Sarawak Energy Berhad, SEB, the single buyer, as stated by the bill, generates electricity mainly from two major types of plant: hydroelectric plants, HEP, and thermal plants. The options for SEB to turn into other sources of energy, particularly the renewable energy, is enormous. The sources of energy are being stated in the bill, such as water power, wind power, solar energy, geothermal, biogas, biomass, biofuel, and biological waste are all falls under renewable energy. And I believe to reduce the burden on SEB investment by putting up a new plant to supply electricity, it is good to involve private sectors that have the interest to invest in energy producer for SEB. These independent power producers, or IPP, is another option to vary the power supply entirety and create an opportunity to interested private sector to invest in Sarawak. The involvement of private sector also shows that there is no monopoly provider of electricity in Sarawak, and SEB maintained as the utility body by buying those power from the IPPs. By inviting IPPs also show that Sarawak government are open to business by not control the energy supply businesses to a single entity. As reference to the ASEAN Plan of Action for Energy Corporations, or APEC, APAEC, Phase 2, ASEAN is committed to achieve 23% renewable share in total primary energy supply by 2025, and Sarawak government under SEB for sure part of the player too. Three speakers, sir. May I suggest to this August House to establish a commissions to look after the supply and the commissions of electricity supply in Sarawak. This established body will ensure that the energy industry is developed in an efficient manner and to meet any challenges of globalizations and liberalizations of energy supply industry. The purpose to establish this body is to avoid too much power and authority being given to SEB in controlling matters regards to electricity power supply in Sarawak. For example, we have energy commissions at federal level, but it only covers West Malaysia and Sabah. And if we look at the importance of efficient and sufficient energy supply, we need a body with the power to regulate and promote matters relating to electricity that meet the needs of both domestic and commercial entity. Even if we refer to the biggest region, for example, the European Union, do establish its own European Energy Policy Commissions with the aim at boosting the internal energy market, making energy supply more secure, sustainable, and more affordable. At the moment, yes, we have abundance of electricity power, but the demand is keep increasing from time to time. The capacity of industries is getting bigger. The domestic demand is increasing year by year. It might be the neighboring states and countries are started to pressure SEB to supply more in the future. Thus, we need a body to help SEB regulate matters that doesn't relate too much with SEB operations, but merely to drive the future plan and the sustainable of energy supply is paramount important. There are few roles and responsibility that should fall under these commissions or entity. Number one is tariff. This is to ensure the electric tariff in Sarawak will not burden the people or the domestic users at large, and to ensure the commercial customer too will benefit from the affordable tariff. As an entity that determines the price of energy between this commission also is an entity that determines the price of energy between the IPPs and SEB as single buyer. Second one is these commissions, we work as utility body, power producer and consumer protections. There must be an adequate protection to all parties that involved in energy supply and users. For example, the connection fees has been practiced by SEB at various and burdening consumer to extensive amount. We at Sarawak are quite lucky to have Sarawak government under the Ministry of Utilities to help lessen the burden of new consumer by introduce ALAF program to help to connect affordable electricity to their home. These commissions will also to determine measure and methodology to protect the single buyers and IPPs. Third, the roles as licensing. The Commission will work as licensing body that accredited single buyer and IPPs and to grant them license to operate or to supply. For that, the Speaker, sir, would suggest that these commissions should be a statutory body under the jurisdiction of Ministry of Utilities and Telecommunications and the Minister in charge as a chairman. With that, Mr. Speaker, sir, I conclude with support of the bill. Thank you very much.
Member for Kota Sentosa.
Thank you, Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity to debate the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023. The amendments are pragmatic and seek to fine-tune the electricity ordinance to keep up with the times in this era of climate change and streamlining it with the other new legislation on achieving net zero greenhouse emission through generation of electricity using renewable sources and the institutionalization of a single buyer. The single buyer, in this case Sarawak Energy Berhad, concept plays a key role in promoting efficiency and facilitate competition for all electricity generated in Sarawak. The single buyer concept allows for more efficient electricity generation, procurement, transmission, distribution, supply and monitoring through a regulatory framework. This will enable Sarawak to promote and accelerate independent private sector participation for the development of electricity power generation from renewable wind, geothermal, biogas, biomass, biofuel, bio-waste, hydro and solar sources. The amendments in this bill will enhance the profitability of all stakeholders in Sarawak electricity supply industry, resulting from more efficient energy use. Tan Sri Dato' Ahmad Speaker, the main responsibility of the single buyer, Sarawak Energy Berhad, under the amendments is to procure electricity from independent power producers and play an important role in planning and managing electricity generation agreements to ensure adequate and ample supply of low-carbon electricity to all stakeholders. This will allow for more accurate preparation of demand forecasts and optimizing production of electricity through renewable energy sources to the Sarawak electricity grid system, currently owned and managed by Sarawak Energy Berhad. This will ensure long-term sustainability of electricity generation from renewable sources. The single buyer eliminates potential conflicts of interest through greater transparency and encourages more potential investment in electricity generation through renewable sources. The single buyer will allow for stringent evaluation, monitoring, and supervision by the Sarawak government in line with our policy on transition to clean, renewable energy and vision of a low-carbon or green economy come 2030. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker, the significance of the amendment in this bill is that it allows Sarawak Energy Berhad as a single buyer of electricity in Sarawak to function more efficiently in its role, which includes procuring electricity to meet domestic, industrial and foreign demand, alongside operating reserve requirements at the lowest possible cost, facilitating security of electricity supply for domestic and export market, monitoring the adequacy of renewable energy sources for generation of electricity and non-renewable natural gas resources to electricity generators, promoting transparency, enabling competition in generation of electricity from renewable sources, and enhancing confidence in the electricity sector. The single buyer being Sarawak Energy Berhad is a key element of an incentive-based electricity system that works to promote an efficient ecosystem which can deliver economically viable, sustainable electricity into the future for Sarawak and beyond. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker, due to climate change, the usage of renewable energy resources for electricity generation is on an increasing trend. Sarawak is on the right track as higher penetration of renewable sources for electricity generation in the system is prudent, as it is sustainable in the long term compared with using depleting non-renewable sources like natural gas for electricity generation. The amendments proposed in the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023 is expedient and pragmatic and reflects GPS commitment to create a robust regional renewable electricity generation powerhouse as it balances economic development with green renewable electricity supply, security and affordability. Tan Sri Dato' Amar Speaker, the amendments in this bill again proves Sarawak GPS government's commitment to secure long-term sustainable economic development goals, while at the same time creating value for financial returns to attract and encourage more investors in clean, renewable power generation. Sarawak, under GPS, continues to surge ahead in strategic development for sustainable growth and prosperity. And it is clear, it is very clear, that the future and continued progress of Sarawak will be more secure under GPS. With that, I fully support the passing of the Electricity Amendment Bill 2023. Thank you.
Any honourable members wish to speak? Ada ahli yang berhormat yang nak berucap? Understanding Order 9(1), I determine today's sitting goes beyond 6:30 p.m. We have an adjournment. Dewan resumes at 5:40 p.m.